Welcome to the Cargo Short Show. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you like baseball, take a look at my documentary on Oscar Charleston.
To the right side, Pujols goes far to get it, and now leads Carpenter to bag for the out.
What a remarkable play by Chris Carpenter. The throw is low, the dive across the bag.
The St. Louis Cardinals are among the most storied and successful teams in sports history. 52 Hall of Famers have worn the birds on the bat. They've had 6 Rookies of the Year. The Cards have sent more All-Stars to the Midsummer Classic than any other National League team, with 330. They've had 9 100-win seasons, and are first in the National League and second only to the Yankees in all of baseball, with 11 World Championships. If you had a working DeLorean and gathered the greatest Cardinals at each position throughout history to form a real fantasy team, you'd have Hall of Famers eating Cracker Jacks as they watch the game from the bench. With such a rich history, it might be greedy to ask, what if luck had tipped the Cardinals' way a few more times? But we'll do it anyway. Issue number 1. What if Steve Carlton hadn't left? The 20-year-old Steve Norman Carlton started his big league career with the Cardinals in 1965.
Steve, a lot of people say that you're doing a real good job with the minors. How do you feel you're progressing?
I feel I've come a long way this year.
Nicknamed Lefty, Carlton preferred weightlifting and martial arts training in the off-season over running, according to the Hall of Fame. His fantastic fastball and biting slider carried him through 24 seasons and into Cooperstown.
Tim McCarver had a great knack of getting close to pitchers and young pitchers, but he and Tim had their fallings out for sure, especially in the first part of Steve's career, because Steve is a very headstrong person, and he makes up his mind to do something or the way he's going to do it. He doesn't deviate from it very much. And of course, McCarver's about the same, so you have 2 hardheads knocking against concrete there.
Steve Carlton came to his first major league camp. He was 10-1 at Winnipeg the year before. And the most dominant trait of Lefty at that time was his Adam's apple. He was so thin and so tall, and obviously he was to fill out and become one of the strongest guys that I've ever met pound for pound. But he was in a very quiet way, very, very cocky, very self-assured, very confident. But a lot of people didn't know it because he rarely said anything. Well, on about our second outing, I think Steve had gone about 4 innings. Now, keep in mind that the year before, the Cardinals were world champions. I had a good series, and we were pretty confident ourselves that spring. Well, I'm in there shaving. Kenny Boyer's here, Dick Grote's here, and I hear footsteps behind me. And it's the tall guy with the dominant trait as the Adam's apple. He's standing behind me, and he kind of swallows. He goes, and he was a little nervous. He said, tapped me on the shoulder, and saw him through the mirror. And I got shaving cream about halfway off my face. And he said, you've got to call more breaking balls behind in the count. And I went crazy. I snapped. I said, who are you to tell me? I mean, what kind of success have you had? You're telling me that I've got to call more breaking balls? I mean, what gives you the right to say, well, we stood toe to toe, and I'm looking up naturally. I mean, at that time, I wasn't but 23 years old. Steve was 21, 21, and all the veterans on the ball club were laughing at the situation, and I guess now I can laugh about it, and certainly Lefty can too.
He was with the St. Louis Cardinals for 7 seasons as he moved toward his prime, having a 20-win season in 1971, and he kept his ERA under 3 for 4 of those seasons. It didn't take a legendary scout to recognize how dominating Carlton would be throughout his career.
You're looking at him and see him out on the mound. He was a tall, very tall guy, very imposing. And when he threw, his arm would almost look like it was right in your face.
One of my great stories about Steve Carlton is with my good friend, the Hall of Famer here, Red Cheney's. When Steve first came up, Red would say, get what's his name up there, Tall Boy, get Tall Boy up. And he called him Tall Boy for about the first 2 weeks. And then after Steve showed him his stuff, he gets Steve Carlton up, please.
In his last 5 years as a Redbird, he earned 905 strikeouts and pitched 15 shutouts. He helped St. Louis win 2 pennants, including a World Series win over the Red Sox in 1967. Carlton might have been the ace on nearly any other team, But with him pitching behind Bob Gibson in the starting rotation, Cards fans were clearing space for all the replica pennants they'd be pinning on their walls at home in the decade to come.
And we had a lot of great teachers in the Cardinal organization, and the players were so good. Dick Groton, Bill White, Kenny Boyer, Julian Javier, Kurt Flood, Bob Gibson. Gibson was quite a force, and Lefty always said that the mound was Bob Gibson's office. That when hitters made outs, they didn't come back through. You know, Pete Rose used to try to intimidate pitchers, especially young pitchers. He'd make an out, and then he'd run across the mound, and even at times make the pitcher move to play. They never did that with Gibson. And Steve said, you know, that's the way I should handle myself. And when I get a little success, that's what's going to be. Nobody's going to come in my office, and nobody did. He got in a few kitchens, but nobody came in his office.
When I was young, I was frightened to throw inside and afraid about hitting guys. And Timmy always had me knock guys down at the right time. And if a guy was really hurting the ball club, you straighten him up or, you know, not push him back, but he'd get it in there. He'd sit behind the hitter where I couldn't see him, you know, so I had to throw.
Oh, the 1970s were sure to be glorious for the Cardinals. Would they claim 6 pennants? 7? Maybe 8?
0 cookies. Nom nom. That's how many cookies there were today. 0.
Unfortunately, the newspapers soon reported one contributing factor to how many pennants the Cards would actually win in the 1970s. During the off-season following the 1971 season, Carlton and the Cards were in a standoff over Carlton's salary. The young phenom was demanding he be paid $65,000 for the 1972 season, slightly less than the current average salary of a St. Louis plumber. Cardinals ownership refused to budge from their offer of $55,000. So, for $10,000, the current salary of a part-time mascot, the future Hall of Famer was traded to the Phillies.
Bing Devine calls me about 8:30 in the morning, and it tells me in so many words that I got traded to the lowly Phillies at that time. And
I guess it's a matter of fact that he and Mr. Bush and Bing Devine had a disagreement over salary.
I said, Bing, can we reconsider? You know, I said
we were extremely fortunate that. Bing Devine, I don't know which clubs he called first, but certainly we must have been near the top of the list, possibly because geographically Clearwater was close to St. Pete, where they were having their spring training.
And here I am off to a last place ball club, feeling that, you know, you lost your best friend kind of a situation. And
Rick Wise was a pretty good pitcher, but we'd all been fortunate enough to see Steve pitch. And it was, Mr. Quinn, if you can make that deal, God, make it as soon as you can.
So really, for a big deal like it is, it was probably the fastest deal with two or three 5-minute phone calls that was ever made.
Steve Carlton was a great pitcher in St. Louis. He came to the Phillies in a deal for Rick Wise that shocked both cities.
The trade was a blessing in disguise, is what it turned out to be. I'm extremely happy to be in Philadelphia.
While Wise did have a couple of good years for the Cardinals, it didn't compare to what Steve Carlton did for the Phillies. Much like Alexandra Daddario, August Bush chose not to reply to my email. We'll just have to guess whether Gussie regrets his decision. Over his 24-year career, Steve Carlton won 329 games, threw 55 shutouts, and amassed 4,136 strikeouts. Fourth best in Major League Baseball history. The 10-time All-Star captured 4 Cy Young Awards for the Phillies, and won another World Series in 1980. Rick Wise did not do those things.
Fastball. You can see for yourself right where it is. 3-2. Carlton's guessing fastball. Boom.
Oh, me. Greg Matthews must feel like the sky